Hi everyone, welcome aboard. This is the Help to Grow session on internationalizing your business. My name's Rob. So Rob Lutas, I work for DBT. Maybe do a bit more of an intro later on. But first of all, thank you for everyone for taking time out of your busy day, out of your business. We realize that, it's a really busy time for everybody. So we really do value you taking your time out. So it's on us and our job to make this as valuable as possible for you. So thanks for taking the time. And I'll just run through a few typical housekeeping things. We are going to be recording this session for you. So if you do need to look back on it, great, or share it with others, also great. And also, if you want to participate in the activity during the afternoon, if you could use the chat for chat, please. So if you've got any comments, thumbs up, shocked fizz, I don't know, whatever you want to share, stick them in the chat box, please. But if there's any specific questions for me or for any of our guest speakers, if you could put those in the Q&A, and what we will do is we will work through those during the session or at the end. We'll make sure that all of those questions are addressed. And if we can't do that today, you have my guarantee that we'll pick it up afterwards and get back to you with some sort of valid response. So that's all of the housekeeping out the way. Just a quick intro for the session. We've got a lot of participants today, all of whom are ex-participants in the Help to Grow program. So you're all valued alumni, as are, coincidentally, the speakers that we've got today. So Alison, Harry, and David have all been through what you've been through. But also what's great is that they are one of our department's export champions as well. So export champions are ambassadors, having been through the support that we've given to companies like yours, have been through that support program with Department for Business and Trade and Help to Grow, come out the other side, and have hopefully got some really valuable experiences to share with you today. So with that, Sibel, if we can just move on to the slides, please. So quick running order, if we move through on to the next one. These are our speakers. So we've got Alison from Sesame, Harry from NKD, and David from Minerva. Now, all of these companies are involved in exporting in some type. It's just a coincidence that they're all working on product-based or solutions-based businesses. But if you're in the services sector, or if you're in tech or retail, please don't be put off, because whatever we're talking about today is absolutely relevant to you as well. We work with businesses across all sectors, whether it's creative industries, food and drink, you name it, we deal with all of them. So it's just a coincidence that most of the guys are sort of product, physical product based today, but please don't let that put you off. So with that, we'll move on to the next bit, please. These are the contacts. We'll fly this up at the end, but if you want to take a screen grab of that, do so now. This is how to get in touch with us in due course. But I won't labor this one. We'll move on to the next slide and make some introductions, get me out the way, and let the more valuable speakers talk to you. So first up, we've got Alison Lyons. Alison's from Sesame Access. I'll let Alison introduce herself if we can. Over to you.
Hi there. So yeah, thank you for the introduction, Rob. So my name's Alison Lyons from Sesame Access. I'm the Director for Commercial Development there. And I think, so we're going to show a video of our product, because that's the best way of explaining what to do. So we're a small company. We're only 24 people. So like many of you, we do all the stuff ourselves. But we've got a really amazing product. So this is a Sesame lift at the Institution of Civil Engineers, which is just down from the Houses of Parliament. So we help people in wheelchairs get into buildings, particularly listed buildings, through the front door, so they can basically live their life as easily as possible, into hotels, into bars, into, European places, etc. So we're a small company, we're a family company. My father invented the Sesame lift, and we now have about 300 installed worldwide. So what's our journey for internationalization? Well, We were probably similar to you. We were quite scared about exporting. Isn't it a load of paperwork? What if we get into trouble? Oh, how do we do it? But we've gone through a journey, and actually, I would say it's really easy and give it a go. So some of the stuff that's worked really well for us is we would have phone calls every now and again from agents from overseas saying, "Oh, I've seen your website. I like your product. Can I represent you?" And what we do is we take quite a chilled approach to it, and we kind of we test them out a little bit, and we say, "Well, we'd love to work with you. Why don't you fly over and meet us? Our workshop's near Heathrow Airport, and come and meet the team." Mostly people go, "Oh, and we don't hear from them again. But an example, we had a French guy called us up. We said, come over, come to see our workshop. We'll go out for dinner, have a look." And he was on pretty much the next flight over. So he showed keenness and was really interested in what we're doing. And we've worked with him now for about 5 years. Works absolutely brilliantly. The main thing that I think that the light bulb moment for us was when we was in a meeting in Paris with him, and he just started speaking, of course, French to the customers. And it was so much easier. They were laughing and joking, and there was the real engagement and connection there. And we were like, we should have done this a long time ago. Having the French agent who knows the culture, speaks the language. We didn't get into big, heavy contracts with him. We've really just done it on a trust basis. So he makes money. We give him our lifts. He sells them to Paris, to France, and he adds his markup. So he's making his money. We're making the sales. It's a win-win. We don't have a big, heavy contract with him, and that works. The other things we've done, which has been good, we did what used to be called an OMIS. So at the British Embassy in Paris, we paid for a piece of work where they did a look at the architect clients in that area and gave us loads of leads. And then we did a big presentation at the embassy, which was really good. It cost a bit of money. I wasn't brilliant at following up all the leads, which is a real big lesson learned, but that's really good. That was good, but you need a lot of resource for the follow-up. Rob, when you need me to stop talking, tell me. I'll keep going until you to stop.
Well, Alison, what we can probably do, we'll tease out some of these things in some of the questions, if that's okay, later on. So there'll be loads of opportunities to expand on some of these things, and maybe some of the guys participating will have some questions as well. So if it's all right, we'll skip through, and then if we come back to this later on, but it's really interesting. I mean, and we'll probably hear from the other guys as well. Everyone's journey is very, very different. So if that's okay, Harry, do you mind if we just move on to you guys and explain your background and your company, please?
Hi, yes, thanks, Rob. My name is Harry Singh. I'm the sales director of a company called NKD Life. I think we're going to have a video we can play just to show what our products are all about. I'll just let it play for a few seconds so that you can see what we do. So we're a manufacturer of water filters for personal solutions, and one of the products is the NKD pod, which you can see. We export to USA, UAE, India, Nepal, Spain, Netherlands, Hungary, South Africa, Kenya, and Ethiopia. We have offices in the USA, UAE, and India. We have our own subsidiary in the USA. We work with agents, distributors, and retailers around the world. We also work in humanitarian entities like UNICEF and WHO. So I'm going to explain about exporting from my view. So what is exporting? I'm sure everybody has their version, but it's selling goods and services beyond our home country, UK, into the international markets. And what that brings is possibilities to grow your revenue. Expanding to international markets often means accessing new revenue streams, which can be larger than the UK. It's a game changer for businesses, and it's definitely been a game changer for us. In fact, 80% of our revenue is in exporting. also gives market diversification, where one market you might be failing in, you might thrive in another market. And we found that many countries have different challenges at different times. An example was obviously for COVID. We faced huge problems in a lot of our exporting countries, but however, we were able to still export to the Netherlands to keep us going. And exposure to international markets and companies allow you to adapt. Especially, we learned about each country having their own custom demands, cultural nuances, regulations, and the drive to develop new solutions. With this, actually an example of when we enter the Indian market, the market is price conscious. So we end up making a bottle made in India to drive the cost down for making the product and selling it so that the price will be acceptable to the market. Another important thing is brand building. Successful exporting can lift your brand's credibility. It's not only your product is in the UK, but you grow as a company and a serious contender industry if you are well known in different countries. I'm a co-owner of a cricket team called the South African Champions, and you can see that we played a tournament in the summer. NKD sponsored, our company sponsored that event, and it reached over 330 million viewers worldwide. It's a powerful tool for us. However, exporting does have its risks and challenges, such as exchange fluctuations, cultural misunderstandings, and understanding foreign regulations. How we mitigated these problems is to seek help. And the DBT can help you with a lot of these, helping you selecting right partners in different areas. But one of the tips that I would say that when you do export, try and stick to the three main currencies, USD, Euros, and GBP. This will really minimize your losses in exchange rates. I'd like to also touch again to DBT. DBT have not only UK offices, but they have offices worldwide, and probably an office in every country that you want to export to utilize them. They know all the rules. So how we've made mistakes on our journeys. Our journey has, when we started to export, we thought, exporting is easy. Reselling in the UK and selling to other countries are the same, but it's different. This cultural awareness is key for each country. They have their own preferences, taboos, and sensitivities of markets. So invest in researching that market. The most important thing I would recommend before you export to any country is visit the country, understand how the country operates. If you're selling products, visit the shopping malls. Hire local experts. We call them agents. They can introduce you to retailers and distributors. Understanding the culture is really important. That could also lead you to changing your packaging. Certainly for us, we have to change languages, packaging languages in different countries. And also your selling points in each market may be different. So you need to take care of looking into that. Mechanisms for helping us to export, obviously, is go to local foreign government agencies.
Harry, can I stop you there for a sec? Harry, just to,
Sure.
we'll come on to some of these points in a sec about some of the details around the channels to market and some of the key learnings, I think, if that's all right. But it's great to understand the journey of the company. But if I could just stop you there for a sec, because you made a couple of points about some of those key learnings. I'd really like to come back to those later on in the session, if that's okay. But with that, David, would you just provide a quick intro on the company and yourself and your background, please?
Sure, thanks, Rob. I'm David Heathcote. I'm the head of business development for a West Yorkshire-based manufacturing company called Inerva, and it's amazing to see the products that Harry and Alison have made. They're truly wonderful products. So it's really nice to be on the call with you. Just to show you what we do, we make power-assisted exercise equipment, so exercise therapy machines. So this is basically assisted technology to help older people to gain the benefits of exercise and exercise therapy. So you can see in the bottom left-hand screen there. In fact, both the images on the left-hand screen are images of our power-assisted exercise equipment within a gym local authority leisure setting. So it's just using a space within a leisure centre to attract a different audience to most that most gyms want to attract. So it's the active aging audience. And we make 14 different machines that exercise different joints and muscle groups. Very often in a leisure centre, you will have the machines in a circuit, so that by the time you finish the circuit, you've had a full body workout. And then on the top right hand part of the screen, you can see something that I'm very proud of, which is our contribution to a stroke rehabilitation hub in University Hospital Wishaw in Scotland. And we've just finished a pilot with the University of Strathclyde and NHS Lanarkshire, where our equipment within a technology hub on a hospital ward, it helps to increase the amount of rehabilitation therapy experienced by stroke inpatients by 159% of increased rehabilitation therapy, which is absolutely vital to your rehabilitation journey. So I'm really proud of that. So that's what we do. And we serve different markets. We serve the leisure sector, we serve rehabilitation therapy, and then care and retirement. So we develop our markets in different sectors, such as those I just mentioned, but also in 2020, I was made responsible for our export journey as well. And when I was asked by our MD to take on the exports, I had no experience of doing it whatsoever. I was a complete novice at exports, but I did know about developing businesses. And in fact, Rob mentioned when we met last week to discuss this call, he said, let's just call it sales. And I think that actually, Rob, has helped me. Even though I've now been an exporter for 4 years, even then I've learned something new from you to talk about. Just call it sales. It just happens to be in a different market, different geographical market. Quite a good part of my export journey too. But when I started as an exporter, I inherited some distributors that we'd had for years. So I had to build up relationships with them, change the contract, make them more structured. But then also part of my journey in the last couple of years has been to find new distributors. And I'll share with you later how I went about doing that. But that's been great. So we're just about to sign a new distributor in Hong Kong. It was after I went on a trade mission to Hong Kong in May. We were invited by Santander. It was with the Hong Kong Trade Development Council and also the Department for Business and Trade. And as a consequence of that, we're just negotiating the terms of a new contract for Hong Kong, looking at Saudi Arabia too. But part of my journey has been really, I can't praise the Department for Business and Trade enough. Whether or not she's on this call, I would tell you that whatever my trade advisor tells me, I do it. So even if you're not on the call, Eve, that's exactly what I do. And just to finish, a big shout out to any of my Huddersfield Help to Grow cohort alumni. If you're on the call, it's nice to see you too.
Thank you, David. I don't know how to tell you. It makes it sound a bit scary, doesn't it? So whatever I get told to do, I do. But we're not that scary, honestly. But David talked about our international trade advisor. And these are guys who sit with you. They'll ride shotgun with you through the whole journey, hopefully. And they all come from industry. and they've all got some experience in the sector that you're from, or what's also quite interesting is the sector that you want to sell into. So, for Harry, if he wants to move into retail, for example, we've got guys who specialize in retail, or if you want to sell into a particular industry group, like, Alison in the architectural specification type arena. Similarly, wherever your customers hang out, we can hopefully find someone that can bridge that between the UK and whoever's doing that buying. But thank you all three for those intros. And just off the back of what you were saying, David, I'm going to throw this one back at Alison first and Harry about those opportunities, because they will differ for every single business. The opportunities and where those buying opportunities are in terms of the markets and also the individual clients within those markets. How did you go about assessing where those biggest market opportunities were? And then how did you assess that, or how did you confirm that? I'll kick off with Alison really about what your upfront market research was to basically prioritize and say, okay, we're going to go for Botswana because it's brilliant. What's the methodology behind that, Alison? How would you do that?
Yeah. Thank you, Rob. Yeah, our purchasers, our buyers are architects. So we'd need to reach out to architects. So overseas, it's very much, how do we find those architects and would our product sell there? An event that I found really useful, I think it's scaling back a bit, but it used to, and hopefully it will start again, is a Meet the Buyer event. And it was a little bit like speed dating. So it was usually like in a hotel in Guildford or something, and you'd have in the room about 30 trade advisors from consulates around the world, and you pick, say, 10, 15 people you want to speak to, and you have about 5 minutes in front of them, and you say, you show them a video of the product. Would this sell in your country? Yes or no? And that was really good something that was very helpful with that. I remember sitting in front of a lady, a trade advisor from Germany, and she said, actually, it probably wouldn't, because Germans love their own technology. It's very regional with the standards, and you will find it actually quite difficult. And that was really, really useful. So we've sort of backed off from Germany, and that's like a 5-minute chat with someone. So yeah, it's working routes to market. And like I said before, we did a presentation with the British Embassy in Paris, where in the building of the embassy, we presented to about 100 French architects, and we laid on food and everything and did a whole thing and that was supported by the ambassador as well. So that's a good route into market, although it can be quite expensive. And really, like David was saying, working with our Department of Business and Trade, International Trade Advisor, Andrew, who has been amazing and has really held our hand through the process and encouraged us just to go for things.
Yeah, it's really helpful. And Harry, your product and your product proposition in the market is obviously very different to Alison's. So how did you go about assessing the scale of opportunities and whether it's a worthwhile market to target?
Yes, thanks. Our product is to clean water. So water is quite a universal market for us. But to export and to find which are the best places to export to, we need to do market research. Those market researches are reports that the DPT can help in the countries that you want to export to. So yeah, I also agree with Alison that there are events that you can go and sit with trade advisors and meet the buyers. But I think that it's important, if you don't even have the opportunity to meet the buyers or meet the buyer events, is to reach out to your DPT advisor, ask them, look, you're interested in exporting to these other countries, ask them to get market data for the product you're trying to sell into, and they will also introduce you to the trade advisor in that country, and then you take them to their specialists in that country. Well, There are some external events that I've been to, which I would highly recommend. And one is called ECRM and Range Me. And ECRM is a speed dating, but it's with buyers. It's not with trade advisors. These are the buyers for the companies that you want to be involved in. These it's quite pricey, but it's an opportunity to have a one-to-one meeting virtually or in person with that buyer of that company that you're trying to get involved in retail or services. And they also have a Range Me product, which is a web-based product platform which you advertise your service or your products, and then buyers constantly look at this platform for picking up new products.
It's helpful. Thank you, Harry. I think what you're saying, before you even set foot in a place, to do some research or market analysis to say what the competition looks like, what the penetration in that market looks like for your product, what the pricing looks like, whether it's even a goer from the beginning, because if you're looking at super low price points, it might not even be worth it. And as Alison said, right from the off, if you've got the advice saying don't do it can be the best advice you ever get, and it allows you to align your efforts on somewhere where the opportunity actually does exist, rather than spreading your resources so thinly. And David, for you, in your world, how would you tackle that upfront analysis to say, do you know what, we really want to go for New Zealand or whatever it may be?
Yeah, so I think, I'll answer that first. So it is about um, tapping into the basically the embassy network for me. That's how I do it. So I speak to my trade advisor, Eve, and tell her that we're interested in this particular market. The Great.gov website has some really good information, basic information about the market, what their priorities are. So that's a good starting point. But then, so often when I ask my trade advisor for information about a country, she will connect me with the officers in that country, and they will provide, if you brief them well, they'll provide really good market research that is very helpful for you to decide whether or not going into that territory is good. And for example, Australia, you mentioned, Rob, about price points. Our equipment might be quite expensive for Australia because of the exchange rate, and that has to be a consideration as well. So, but if there's a demand, if our products could add value to a country, then obviously it's worth exploring, and perhaps just speaking with some potential customers to see whether or not they might be interested in buying your products. As far as choosing a destination as well, when I first started, I thought I would try and rank countries to see whether there's an appetite for our products. And I based it on basically old aging populations, because that's the market that we serve, both for active aging but also rehabilitation therapy. And it was a bit like having a lens that you pointed, or a radar, a sort of device to detect a signal from each country. And wherever we pointed that lens, every country lit up as a potential country where we might sell our products. So obviously that wasn't a very good way of doing it, because wherever we looked, there could be a market for our product. So what I actually did was I reversed it, and I thought I actually identified what an ideal for a distributor looks like, and use that as our filter instead. And that's helped us so much, because instead of a bit like how Alison deals with it, instead of looking at a market, I think that might be a nice place to go. We obviously have that strategy for our market strategy, but if a distributor gives you a call and they say they're interested, you can match what they do with what your ideal distributor looks like. That's how I do it. And that's been incredibly helpful. And it's actually impacted even our social media and our marketing and it's generated a lot of what my old boss would call coming inness of, because we were trying to appeal to a particular type of distributor, they would spot us and then write to us, and we've generated 2 or 3 really good relationships because of that. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Rob.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, David. So back to Alison on this one. In navigating that weird world, right, for the first time when you sat behind your desk in Bognor or Belfast or wherever you may be, saying, what are we going to look at and how are we going to do this? What would you say were the biggest unknowns when you set off? You know, the things that you really didn't anticipate that came around to bite you on in the place where you didn't want it. I was going to say something, but what were the big surprises, the unknowns that you encountered? Alison first, and Harry, please.
Yeah, thank you. I'll go on to the unknowns in a bit, but just supporting a little bit from what David said, very much. We also do a lot of social media, and from that, agents contact us, and then we start the conversations, which is quite a good way of doing it. Like, we're in talks a little bit with in Mecca to see whether our wheelchair lifts will be good for that market. So that's sort of exploring there. Some of the unknowns, you get phone calls, and we had a long conversation with a client in Qatar, and they said to us on the phone, "Oh, can you install in Qatar National Library?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, of course we can. Yeah, we don't have an agent there, but we we'll be able to do it. We've installed in Sydney Opera House. You know, it's a small world." And we finished the telephone call with them and put the phone down, and I was like, "Where's Qatar?" So one of the unknowns is geography for me. Where is the place? But I think you just be open, and and the world is very small, and you can do this stuff. Something that's bitten us in the bum, go for your gut reaction. We were potentially doing a project, I would say, in America, and a character came along who wanted a facilitation fee quite early on, and we're like, what is that? And our gut reaction was no, and we pulled out of that project. So your gut reaction is strong. You don't want to be held, you know, we would never make a payment to secure a lift, basically, and we were put in that position and we pulled away from it. We weren't comfortable with that. And when you do the exploratory stuff, like we did one of the trips overseas with Santander and the DIT to Dubai, it was time consuming, it was a bit expensive. We didn't get an order from it, but I learned a huge amount around how markets work and how agents work. And it was really, I think it was good use of time, even though we didn't land a sale, just to see how other markets operate and build up a sort of knowledge base about it.
Thanks, Alison. Just before I bring Harry in, those channels to market using agents or distributors or resellers, as they call them in the States, it could be the biggest opportunity, but it can also be your biggest nightmare as well, because, you know, once you enter into these things, I know you say it's great having someone that you can have a loose agreement with, but actually getting your terms nailed down can be absolutely crucial, because I know I worked with, or was about to work with, a guy in the Middle East who had the most amazing portfolio of clients, you know, royal families, or he had this kind of crazy Rolodex of contacts. But I just thought, I just need to check him out. And it turns out in that particular state, he was so well connected, but only with about 50% of the authorities and the royal family that I needed to be connected to. The rest of them, it was like oil and water. They didn't like him. So I was basically cutting out 50% of that marketplace just by going with the wrong person. So, you know, due diligence is really crucial. And once you've done your due diligence, it's getting your terms nailed down, because you don't want to be locked into somebody. Because I've found it with distributors, sometimes they can go for an exclusive deal, but they're also working with another party, and they can basically lock you out of the country.
Mm.
So little tips like that, when you speak to the guys over there and say, what would you recommend? Taking advice is really important, because they can basically identify some of those pitfalls before you fall into them, to save that agony that people have been through before. Harry, how about you? What was the I'll use Alison's term, what came around to bite you on the bum?
I think it's very important that when you look at a country that you want to export to, that you'll know the tax implications. You may find the market is great, but you may be paying a lot of import tax on the other side. So I think you need to really investigate your cash flow to see whether it's viable for you to export to that country. It may be all glossy. An agent might tell you, oh, it's fantastic, but you need to look at your costing, your logistic costings, whether when you ship goods, where you're going to store it initially. So yeah, we had a lot of problems with understanding those costings, but you learn and you realize that obviously that's analysis before going into it. Is that your cash flow is very important. Look at how it affects you. And you're absolutely right. To find the right local agent is very important. We found agents in the USA. They could be really big sharks. They promise you the world. They don't do anything, and they like to take a fee from you. So be warned, if somebody decides to start talking about charging you fees before they do anything any work, you need to be aware. So, but you do find the place, USA is a good place to start. It's probably one of the easiest markets outside Europe to export to, as long as you do your homework well.
Good point. Now, we didn't set this up before, but I don't know if others have heard me say this before, but the one thing I always strongly advise before you even attempt to go for any pricing or any products in overseas markets is to ascertain your true cost of sale. Now, the true cost of sale can bring in so many different variables, like you said, like exchange rates, regulatory fees, duties, local taxes in the States. Every single state has got a slightly different tax, but there are tools to do this, right? There are ways of absolutely nailing it so that when you set your price, you know you're going to make a healthy margin. But it's just really important to bring in every possible factor to make sure that remains healthy, because there's no point in selling stuff at a loss, right? Why do we do that? So yeah, true cost of sale, critical. David, how about you? What's your key learning from experience?
Well, the things that one of the things that I still worry about that might come around to bite you is when you're going to and I'm experiencing at the moment when you're thinking about a new market, is what on earth are the certification regulations that you need in order to get into that market? And I went to an event in Leeds a few weeks ago, and I said to somebody in the DBT that this worries me, and they very reassuringly said, "Well, yes, you should be worried about it, but actually, there's a lot of support in order to help you answer those questions." And as Harry said, it's about doing your research. But something I only realised a few days ago is that on not the great.gov website, but on the government's website, you can type in a harmonized system product code, and you can type in a country, and that will tell you how to import your equipment or what certifications are required to get equipment in the country. So in Mexico, for example, we were worried that we have a potential distributor who is interested in representing us in Mexico. And we were worried that we might have to comply with the sort of North America UL product listing, which is very expensive for us. It would cost us a lot of money. But fortunately, on the government website, I found a beautiful line that said you can comply with the North America listings or Switzerland. And to get our products into Switzerland, we just need the European CE mark. And so that is a way to get our equipment into Mexico. So we're really pleased about that. And it was the gov.uk website that helped us with that. Rob, you asked me what lessons I've learned. One of the things is that because we work with distributors, in the past, before I took on this role, we had a passive relationship with our distributors, so we just appointed them, let them get on with it. And that's not, for me, the way to do it. As I've learned, really, it's about building a really good relationship with them so that it's symbiotic. You can work with each other, support each other, because obviously we depend upon their success for our sales too. So that was a lesson. It's basically don't just leave them to get on with it. It's got to be a good working relationship in order for it to succeed.
Brilliant, thank you. I think what everyone said there is it's kind of relevant in the sense that before doing anything, you need a pretty good plan. I think that's fair to say, and the components of that plan will change. They will need to be tweaked for different businesses and different sectors and different markets, but there are some key components in there which is just really sensible housekeeping before you start considering moving internationally, either for the first time or to diversify into new additional markets. So we've got some quite cool stuff on the great.gov website. It's like an export sort of strategy plan tool, which you can just populate with your own stuff. And then, as David said, it's got some other tools on there as well. So you can look at costings and regulatory environments and what the market looks like. So we've got I think it's about 150 market reports on there now, everything from Australia to well, I won't even think about Z, but anyway, you know what I mean. And within there, it just allows you to establish a pretty firm basis. Say, okay, this is a runner. We want to have a shot at this. Now, how are we going to do that? David, you got your hand up.
Yeah, but just to follow up on that, Rob, that when I first started, my trade advisor, she first got me onto the Export Academy program, which was I learned a lot from that. But one of the first things she asked me to do was to create an export plan, which she provided me with a template, and she took me through that. And that was a really good starting point for me. And then obviously that's grown now, and I do my strategies and plans in a different way. But it was a fantastic way to start.
I feel really guilty here because it sounds like these guys are just plugging our services all the time. And I promise I didn't prompt them for this, but David mentioned Export Academy. That is quite a good service to use for you guys because you've been through the Help to Grow program. That's really positive because it means, you know, not the guys, the guest speakers, sorry, but everybody else on the call. It means that you are permeable to the idea of learning in your business. And trust me, a lot of businesses are not always that receptive to outside input. But the fact you've been through it and you're at the other end and you're one of the alumni and you're on this call means that you're switched on to the whole learning idea. And that's what Export Academy is all about. And there are loads of modules from the really basic, rudimentary, how do I do an export document, for example, or what do I need, right the way through to some quite sophisticated masterclasses on how to sell services to Australia, for example. So there are some quite intricate sessions on there as well. And what's really good is that there's quite a healthy forward plan, but there's an also really healthy back catalogue of content which you can dip into as you want to, really. So the Export Academy is a reasonably good start point for all of this. And once you've moved through to the point where you need more one-to-one advice, that's where the international trade advisors kick in. Harry, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I would like to also stress the importance to visit the country that you want to export to, and if you have products, have a list of potential customers. It's all well and good going through finding an agent and finding a distributor, etc., etc. But if you have a list of what we certainly did, we had a list of customers who we wanted to approach. We went into those stores, saw the layout, to see how we could plan placing our product in their stores, and then we approached those retailers directly, gained some interest. They themselves, once you have a good product, will say, okay, we're interested, and they will then recommend what distributors you should use. So it's really important that you yourself do a lot of the work. I know you have a lot of resources, but it's your business. So you need to make the call. So you need to know where you want to sell it to. So it's really important. And I believe that I can't stress that enough.
Thanks, Harry. And you know, finding that support wherever it may come from. A lot of it's free, but you know, unfortunately for the real specialist stuff, if you want to protect your intellectual property, whether that's software, services, or product, you know, you've got to pay an attorney to do that, and that just makes sense whatever you do. But in your experience, Alison, who else would you reach out to outside of DBT? You've plugged us enough, right? Thank you very much. But who else is out there in the wider world that you say, do you know what, they can offer some really valuable input into this area?
I think the British brand has massive impact overseas. I would suggest everyone looking at the King's Award website and apply for a King's Award. There's a few categories to go for. It's free to enter. The deadlines finish in September each year, so this deadline's just finished. But if you win one, they're quite difficult to win. But if you win one, there's loads of free publicity. You get to meet the king, you get to fly the flag, and it really has a lot of impact internationally. And we found that very much for Sesame Lifts. That helped us get into America. We've installed in Seattle Space Needle, for example, and some really high-end restaurants in America. That's a good thing to tap into, and slightly different. I would also ask everyone on this to have a look at the R&D, research and development tax credit scheme. If you're innovating to export, etc., there's some really good tax credits, money back from the government, that you can have to help fund the investment in that innovation. Sesame Lifts innovate constantly to meet the demands of architects and mostly architects. We want to fit our lift in any type of building. Buildings have challenges, particularly pit spaces underneath that our lifts can go into. So we innovate a lot so that our product is suitable to every building, and we use like the R&D tax credits for that as well. Yeah, that's my main things, I think.
Thanks, Alison. Just when you're on finance as well, it'd be remiss of me not to mention our sister operation, UK Export Finance. It's not for everybody, but it can be a really vital tool when it comes to actually funding the deal. So it doesn't just apply to large infrastructure or anything like that. I recently worked with a software company. These guys are brilliant. They developed a lot of the gubbins that sits behind the Oyster card. So they work on metropolitan rail tech solutions. And they landed a deal in Latin America with a large capital city. I won't say which one, but it was a big deal. But there was also going to be a big delay between landing the contract, building the solution, invoicing, and then getting paid. And it was going to kill their business because their cash flow is going to be really struggling to get through that. And what UK Export Finance were able to do is to provide bridging funding so they could employ the software engineers and some of the techies to build a solution. And it allowed them to fill that gap of funding between the time when they could bill it and get paid. So there's loads of other stuff out there. And if you don't know where it is, please reach out to all the other agencies that are out there, because you'd be surprised what's on offer, really. David, have you come across any other outfits that you've worked with that have added something along your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I went on so just to follow on from what Harry says, I think it is good to go and visit the country that you want to do business with. I learned a lot more by being there. I went on a trade mission to Hong Kong in May as a guest, guest of Santander, which was fantastic. And there they have a complimentary platform which is called Santander Navigator, which is it's like a great .gov website. It gives you lots of in-market information, really thorough, and it recommends partners as well. And in order for them to become a partner on this website, they are really well researched and due diligence is done on them, because that reflects a Santander brand. So they choose good partners. So that was a good thing to partner with Santander. on that mission, because we were interested in Hong Kong, the mission was to an event organized by the Hong Kong Trade Development Council. So that was a fantastic support organization to be part of. And then because I went to that, last night I was at a dinner hosted by the Hong Kong Trade Development Council here in London. And from there, I gained more contacts, I gained more market information, reassurance that Hong Kong was a great market for us to be involved in. And then because of that, I was also this morning at a breakfast meeting from the Chamber of Commerce for Hong Kong. And again, it's just as Harry says, being in the market, networking with people who are interested in that market, you get more and more knowledge and more reassurance or information about whether it's the right market. For us in Hong Kong, it's reinforced that that market actually is a good one for us. But it could equally have gone the other way, where it might not be a great market for us. But as I think Alison said earlier, well, at least acknowledge that early before you get involved in it. And if it's not the right place for you, like she said with Germany, because they like different technology, then acknowledge that early so you're not wasting your very finite resource on that. So yeah, Santander, Hong Kong Trade Development Council, because it was in a market that we were interested in, so building up that network within that. And that could have been for any country that we were interested in, really.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. Just one point before we move on again. There is a very, very short questionnaire, just a question on how your experience was today. That's in the chat box. So colleague Sabella's plopped that in there, I think. So if you wouldn't mind filling that out, it's the very last point in the webinar chat at the moment. And there's a couple of questions in the Q&A, which I'll come on to at the end, if that's okay. If we spill over, I'll hang on at the end, if that's okay. But just very quickly on those questions. One to Alan, we can't help with domestic business development, unfortunately. That's a straight no from our side. So hopefully that answers that. Sorry, that's a bit blunt. And on the SME safety engineering consultancy, I would say, yeah, we can certainly help with that, even though you don't provide a physical product and it's advisory. That's absolutely fine. We just need to know more about where your niche target audience is for us to be able to give a more definitive answer on that, Stuart, if that's okay. Alison, we're going to wrap this up in about 4 minutes, but over to you before we do, please.
Okay, so I thought of a couple more points. With reducing the risk on your international trade, we do low volume but high price contracts. And so I always try and get the contract in pounds to take away the exchange rate risk, which has really helped us. Where we can't do pounds, we work with an exchange rate company and we hedge the currency. So we book it in when the rate's good and we use that. We've made some nice money from that. And in my contracts, particularly say North America, where I don't know the details of the local taxes and duties, I always do contracts excluding all of those. So the buyer is responsible for understanding and paying all the local taxes and duties. It's just getting things in your contracts that reduce the risk for you and the volatility for you on your price. That's what we do.
No, it's a great point. And if you're moving high volume, so if it's a high volume, low value, particularly in retail or e-commerce, for example, those duties are absolutely critical, because a little few percentage points on state tax, for example, can really change the game. So there are tools available for that. They're on the market and you can plug them into your e-commerce platforms, for example, and they do all the calculations for you. But it's horses for courses, right? Depending on what you're actually selling and where you're selling. Sometimes if it's high value, low volume, it's not always a big issue. But if you're moving a lot of throughput of orders, then it's absolutely critical to get that right. I think we're about to pull this to a close now. Again, if you could complete your those feedback questionnaires on the in the web chat, please. I don't think we've got any more open questions in the Q&A unless Sibel and colleagues tell me otherwise. But it only leaves me to say an absolutely enormous thanks to Harry, David and Alison for taking their time out and sharing their experience with you guys. And once again, thank you to all you guys for taking time out your busy day to participate in this. And it would also be remiss of me not to say a massive thank you to the Help to Grow guys. They're the guys who put this together. We've just hijacked it from DBT, but thank you for the guys for all the praise and all the positive affirmation about what we do as an organization. But it's great to work with Help to Grow, and hope to see you at a future alumni event. I'm going to hang on the call just for a little while in case there's any remnants of questions coming through. But if not, we'll see you on the next session, and look forward to seeing you all soon. But thanks again all.